Now to some potential changes to the Premier League's financial rules. Our chief reporter, Kaveh Solhekol, as you can see, has joined us on set. Kaveh, good evening to you. Could we see a salary cap in the Premier League?
Well, we've never had one before, but there is now the possibility that one could be introduced. Basically, what's happening at the moment, I'm sure everybody knows, the Premier League has got these controversial profitability and sustainability rules. They are not really working very well. They've caused lots of issues, points deductions for Forest, appeals, points deductions for Everton, appeals as well. So at the moment, Premier League clubs are discussing changing these rules. And what they're going to replace them with is squad cost control rules from the season after next. So basically, at the moment, we've got a regime where you can basically only lose £35 million a season. Now, they are going to do away with that and replace it with new rules, which will basically say that you can only spend up to 85% of your revenue on squad costs. So players' wages, transfer fees, agents' fees. Now, that sounds fairer. Everyone can spend 85% of their revenue on their squad. But of course, the bigger your revenue, the more you can spend. There's some clubs whose revenue is 600-700 million, and there's some clubs whose revenue is only 200-300 million. So to get around that, they have been discussing something called anchoring. And this is where it's got a bit fractious, because what anchoring means is that the maximum you would be able to spend on your squad would be a multiple of the amount the bottom team earns in broadcast revenue. Now, last season, I think the bottom team was Southampton. They got £103 million. So if anchoring was that you could only spend 5 times that, that would mean that clubs would only be able to spend 5 times £103 million on their squad. Now, the top clubs are saying, wait, we don't think it's fair. We are not in favour of anchoring at all, because that would mean that what we can spend on our squad would always be tied to what the bottom side earns in broadcast revenue. So those are the kind of discussions that are being had at the moment. Obviously, clubs tend to do and act in a way that they believe is in their own best interests. But behind the scenes, there are quite a lot of discussions and arguments and disagreements going on. But we could have a vote on this as early as next Monday. Clubs could vote at a Premier League meeting whether to adopt this controversial anchoring model, which basically would mean that we would have a wage cap. You know, it wouldn't be something that would be called a salary cap.
No.
But effectively, you would be getting a salary cap through the back door.
You said what, squad quality? Could you say that again?
Squad cost control rules.
SCCR, yet another acronym for us all to learn.
Yeah,
just when we learned PSR.
Yeah, forget
which they're
PSR.
Not replacing. So why are they replacing profit and sustainability rules?
Well, PSR, we're still going to have PSR next season as well. You've got to concentrate now, because next season
PSR gone, SCCR coming in.
No.
Why?
Next season we're going to have PSR, but in the background we're also going to have these new squad cost control rules running in the background, shadow.
Yeah.
And then the season after next, PSR will disappear, and we will just have squad cost control. But what's being discussed at the moment is whether we will have anchoring as part of that as well. That is what is really controversial. What was your question? Why are we getting rid of PSR? We're getting rid of PSR because it's not fit for purpose.
Yeah.
It has caused a lot of problems, a lot of arguments. I think it's damaging the integrity of the Premier League. Instead of talking about what's going on the pitch,
why did they vote
we
for it in the
keep
first place?
talking about.
The clubs voted for the PSR in the first place.
Well, not all the clubs. Yeah, not all the clubs voted for it. No, I know that's a good point. That's been raised a lot. People say, well, Everton voted for it, Forest voted for it. Well, why don't they just shut up and abide by the rules that they voted for? I'm not sure they did, because the votes don't have to be unanimous. Just 14 out of the 20 clubs have to vote for something for it to be adopted. So some of the clubs have voted for it. But I think the point you make is a good point. We've got a situation where, the clubs are just voting in their own interests. and we get a lot of disagreements, a lot of discussions, a lot of people pulling and pushing in different directions, where sometimes you feel like you need somebody at the top who is just going to set the rules and say, I'm the boss, I'm the dictator, this is how we're going to go about doing things. But of course, English football doesn't work like that.
So, Kaveh, the vote's on Monday. How do you think it's going to go? Which way is it going to go?
Well, I think it's difficult to say. It's so difficult to predict how these votes are going at the moment, because it used to be that the big clubs used to stick together and vote en masse. But ever since the European Super League, that has changed. And also we've got so many new owners from the US, private equity companies, people from all over the world buying Premier League clubs. It is really difficult to predict what will happen. What I do know almost for certain is that PSR will be going. We'll have it next season, but after that we will have
SCCR.
SCCR.
Got a year to learn that acronym.
SCCR.
Kaveh, brilliant stuff. SCCR, thank you.